If you're watching this video and you're currently crashing out thinking, I don't know how to study for A-level psychology, I don't know how to write an essay, I don't even know what Milgram study is about, don't worry, you're in the right place. My name is Jasleen. I study psychological and behavioural science at the London School of Economics. I've also tutored A-level psychology for 2 years and I got an A star in A-level psychology. So I kind of know what I'm talking about. Now you may think, I did relatively well in my A-levels, I go to a decent university, I'm probably somebody who is innately academically smart, and let me tell you, that's very, very far from the truth. Here are my year 10 GCSE mock grades, and here are my actual GCSE grades. And granted, I didn't do as well in my GCSEs as other people at my university have, but what I can say is that if there is anybody who knows how to lock in last minute and revise, I promise you, I know. So if I can do it, you can do it, anyone can do it. So enough with the boasting. I'm going to walk you through a few tips specifically in reference to how to write out essays, how to write evaluations, which for some reason AQA examiners love an evaluation, and also how to use the specification effectively. Now these tips are specifically for AQA A-level psychology. However, even if you are on another exam board, you can still utilize some of these tips. First, I just want to give you a bit of an overview of the exam, of the papers, which hopefully you should already know this. You will do 3 papers. The first one, you will be doing memory, social influence, psychopathology, and attachment. In your second paper, you'll be doing biopsychology, which I don't like, research methods and approaches. And then in your third paper, you'll do issues and debates, and then 3 other topics that your school will choose for you. So each paper is 96 marks, 2 hours each. So roughly you should give yourself around 30 minutes per section within the papers. Now onto my first tip. One thing I will tell every single student I tutor is to use the specification. Please, for the love of God, use the specification. Print it out, use it as your reference, and let me tell you why specifically. AQA, they always ask you questions using the exact wording of the spec. So over here, I have an exam question. It says, describe the neural mechanisms in aggression. Even if you don't do aggression as a topic, because it is a paper 3 topic, do not worry about it. Now, this is a 6-mark question, right? And a lot of students would look at it and think, okay, neural mechanisms in aggression, what does that mean exactly? I should probably talk about serotonin and how that affects the likelihood of somebody being aggressive. Great. However, this is a 6-mark question, so clearly you can't just talk about serotonin, right? However, if you look at your specification under aggression, it says, within neural mechanisms that explain aggression, a big part of that is the limbic system. So the amygdala, the prefrontal cortex, the hypothalamus, and how all these brain areas are associated with aggression. However, a lot of students, just by looking at this question, seeing neural mechanisms, they would not think to talk about the limbic system, even though they know and they've studied the limbic system and they know how it's linked to aggression. They just don't know that it comes within neural mechanisms. Another example is dispositional explanations for obedience. A lot of students would be like, what does that mean? If you got an exam question saying, explain a dispositional explanation for obedience, you may sit there and think, what on earth is going on? What are they talking about? What are they asking me? But within your spec, it says that dispositional explanations for obedience, what is that? Well, that's the authoritarian personality. So a lot of students will know what the authoritarian personality is, but they may not know that that is a dispositional explanation for obedience. So all in all, what I'm trying to say, please use your specification. It is so important. Next tip. This is probably my favorite tip, and that is general evaluations. Now, general evaluations can either be your best friend or your worst enemy, but it's just about how you use them. You have so much content within A-level psychology. It is really difficult to learn 3 to 4 new evaluations for every single topic, right? So what do? You will learn perhaps 1 to 2 specific evaluations per topic and keep 1 to 2 general evaluations in the back of your mind. So what do I mean by general evaluations? What does that actually mean? So for theory, some general evaluations that you can pretty much always talk about are opposing theories, real-world applications, and issues and debates, so such as reductionism, holisticism, determinism, free will, etc. So let me give you an example. Within your specification, we learn the cognitive explanations for depression. Specifically, one of them is Beck's cognitive triad, how negative views of the self, the world, and the future are all linked to depression, right? Now, what are the positive implications of us understanding what causes depression within individuals? It means that we know how to treat them, right? If you know why people are getting depression, okay, we can get to the root cause of the problem and try and treat the depression that they are experiencing. So that's what's led to Beck's cognitive behavioral therapy. If we know why people are depressed because of negative and irrational thinking, we can help them find evidence for and against their irrational thinking, and to help replace these negative thoughts with more positive thoughts. And if more people are being treated for depression, what does that mean? That means that more people are able to enter the workforce, re-enter education, and that can have really positive implications for the economy. So do you see how you have an explanation or a theory such as cognitive explanations for depression, how you've taken that, seen the positive real world applications of it, and use that as a strength of this explanation or theory. And this can be applied to so many other topics as well. Explanations for phobias, explanations for OCD as well, for lots of different topics. Nearly every single topic within psychology or theory will have some sort of real world application that you can always talk about. So those are some general evaluations that you can talk about with theories or explanations. What about for studies, right? Because a lot of the AQA Spec is us learning about key studies. What you can use is the acronym GRAVE. So that is generalizability, reliability, application, so real world application, validity, and ethics. So that is something that you can always try and think about. So the most important thing to remember is that yes, these evaluations are generic. However, the content within them must be as specific as possible. So let's say you're talking about cognitive treatments for depression and you're saying how these are reductionist. Great point to talk about. How exactly are these treatments reductionist? Go in as much detail as possible. Another thing within AQA A-level psychology, kind of bonus tip, you're never going to be marked down for too much information. So write as much as you can. Quantity and quality are very important, but I think students tend to underestimate the importance of quantity. Now, onto the dreaded 16-mark essays. Don't worry, nobody really likes them, but if you learn how to write them correctly, hopefully it should be all good and all fine. So number one, just remember for your AO1, it's roughly 6 marks, so roughly right around 6 points generally. Obviously these essays are marked holistically, however if you kind of use that as a benchmark, you should be okay. Now back onto the evaluations, which AQA they seem to love a good evaluation, don't they? So just make sure that you write around 4 evaluation paragraphs if there is no AO2. If there is AO2, aim for 3 evaluation paragraphs. Most importantly, with your evaluations, be as specific and as detailed as possible. Use maybe 1 to 2 general evaluations and 1 to 2 more specific evaluations. So such as if there's research support for the idea or theory that you're explaining, or if there's contradictory research, anything like that. Now onto my next tip, and this one might actually be my favorite, but I know I've said that about every single tip thus far, but that is predicted essay questions and writing out essay plans or essays for predicted essay questions. Now obviously I cannot predict or know what AQA is going to put for their 16 and 8 mark questions this year, but if I was you, what I would do is I would look at what topics have previously come up, use process of elimination and see what topics have never come up, and based on that make essay plans or write out essays for those specific topics, because obviously if they've never come up before, it's much more likely to come up this year as a 16 marker or 8 marker. So let me give you a few examples. For social influence, authoritarian personality, resistance to social influence, and also social change are topics that have either never come up as an 8 mark or 16 mark question, or have only come up once, years and years ago. But also for social influence, minority influence was actually asked as a 16 marker in 1 year and then as an 8 mark question in the following year. So that means also revise other topics. Those could also come up as 8 or 16 mark questions, but still put a little bit more emphasis on the topics that have never come up, but don't neglect everything. Now onto my last tip, and that is to write as much as possible. Obviously quality is super duper important, but so is quantity. And believe me, I know it's really difficult to write a lot within that 2-hour time span. So how do you learn to write so much within a short period of time? And there's really and truly only one way, and that is to practice as much as possible. So try and do as many timed essay questions and exam questions as possible within this month. So those are my general A-level AQA psychology tips. I have some more generic tips that you could use if you're somebody who gets very anxious or stressed about exams, which believe me, I get very stressed, so I know what it's like. One thing that I find really helpful is positive visualization. This is actually something I think I got from Unjaded Jade, where basically the day before the exam, the night of the exam, you kind of close your eyes, positively visualize yourself walking into your exam hall, opening the paper, reading the questions in a very calm manner. Perhaps you're positively visualizing the fact that a topic or question that you really wanted to come up actually has come up. and to kind of walk yourself through that. I think that's really one way that can make you feel more calm for the exam, and it's a way in which that makes you feel more prepared for the exam. So overall what it is just essentially having a positive expectation of how the morning of the exam is going to go and how the actual exam is going to go as well. And that can be really helpful, especially if you are somebody who kind of sometimes goes to just like the worst case scenario that could happen. Next tip is if, again, you're somebody who's kind of competitive, which I also tend to be a bit competitive, and that's kind of, this may sound really weird, but kind of seeing it as like you versus the paper and kind of seeing it as a competition in a way. Instead of comparing yourself to other students, what you can do is try and envision it as you versus the paper. So kind of assuming that this paper is going to try and trip you up, confuse you, but because you've studied enough, you've worked hard enough, you know your AQA psychology spec to a T, you're going to beat this paper. You're going to do better than what it expects, and you're going to get the grade that you need. All in all, I want you to know that even if you haven't studied, even if you haven't done anything up until now, do not dwell on it. All you can do is do the best that you can within this month and within your 2-hour exams. Try your best, you can do it. Just use these tips, revise effectively, and all will be good. And if you want more content similar to this, I'm also going to be posting on TikTok, so posting any tips and also going over particular topics that I think are more likely to come up. My TikTok is linked below. And if you're a year 12 student and you've come across this video, I also offer one-to-one A-level psychology tutoring, so if that is something you're interested in, my email is down below as well.